You just heard Bushman reporting on an Israeli strike in Lebanon. So, oh my goodness, is that conflict spilling over borders and going to expand further? Or is this kind of a one-off thing? I don't know. But this is a good time to ask Blonde Kamala back on the James Show. Blonde Kamala, you're running for president. In 6 months, the decision on what to do about overseas crisis like the Israeli bombing in Lebanon, these would be on your lap should you win in November. What would a Kamala, I should say it correctly. What would a Kamala Harris administration do in response to the Israeli bombing of Lebanon?
Well, listen, first and foremost, I want to say thank you for correcting yourself and getting my name right, because most people don't. Am I right?
Was that funny? It was just, there's like World War III breaking out, and you're laughing.
Well, listen, I think the point that you're raising in the broader context of which is that as a nation, we actually have to have a real priority at the highest level of government around the problems in America and abroad. And we can talk about all of that at different times, right?
Right, but what would you do? Would you withdraw support from Israel, or is there some red line that they would have to cross in order for you to change the current Israeli policy?
Well, to your point, things are going to happen in order to make other things happen. And this is the way that we are going to move forward and address these issues that are of the utmost concern to each and every one of us as individuals and collectively, right?
I have no idea what you just said. Kamala Harris, Elon Musk tweeted out an ad or a parody video that sounded like it was in your voice, but it was an artificial intelligence recreation of your voice. Gavin Newsom, governor of California, already says he's working on legislation to make such ads illegal. What's your thoughts on using AI voices in political ads or just ads in general?
Well, listen, here's the thing with that. We have had many, many, many discussions about AI, which, as you may not know, stands for artificial intelligence, okay?
Was that funny?
And lots of people don't know that. Lots of people don't realize that. And that is something that we're going to be taking very seriously, about educating the public and about, taking some serious governmental controls over what people say and do. You know what I'm saying?
No, but okay, say if you were president and a similar law passed your desk on the federal level, would you be willing to sign a bill that outlaws using AI voices?
Well, that is something that I am very seriously and ready to give serious consideration to, and that is an excellent question that I was so happy to answer for you.
Well, do you have any advice on how we could properly, see what can be?
Well, here's the thing. This is a time where we can be unburdened by the things that have been and what will be. And it is now the time, yesterday and today, to be unburdened, right?
Man, I saw a viral video of you saying what can be unburdened by what has been, and it was pointed out that you even have choreographed hand motions to go with that. Who's doing your choreography? Jeez,
what a funny question. Listen, I do all my own moves, right? I mean, I have got the moves. You know what I'm saying?
I guess. There she is. Go ahead and spin your chair around and let me not talk to Blonde Kamala anymore. I want to talk to Elsa Kurt.
Dude, you caught me off guard. I actually started laughing for real.
On the what can be?
Yes. Yeah. You caught me off guard on that one. That was a good one.
Elsa Kurt, have you noticed they've seized this term weird? There's a montage I'm going to play in the next segment. of about 2 minutes, people in the media saying, boy, this whole Trump and J.D. Vance thing is just weird. They're just weird. Where'd that come from?
Oh, man, this is what they do. They play with words. They love making words, mean things that they don't. And this is another one of those things. We're talking about people who are dressed up in the Olympics is a perfect example, the opening ceremonies and the absurdity and ridiculousness of what these people were wearing and how they looked and all that. And we're the weird ones. I mean, they are notorious for their just deviant behaviors and that they flaunt, but we're the weird ones. Like this is, I think this is going to backfire on them. Like what you're doing is you're calling traditional values, morality, Christianity, love of country. You're calling all of these incredibly healthy, normal, proper and right things weird. So if that's going to be their little catchphrase right now of just labeling conservative values as being weird, then I wish them all the luck with it, because we can have twice as much fun with it as they think they're going to have. So yeah, that'll backfire and it'll be fun.
Dan, that's great. That's the first place you went. We're the weird ones. Did you see the opening ceremony to the Olympics? We're the weird ones. I mean, to them, I guess we are weird. We want to do really off the wall things like get married and have kids and raise them in a loving nuclear family. I mean, what a bunch of weirdos, Elsa.
So weird.
Crazy people. We don't wear a mask in 2024. I saw people in a mask yesterday. Elsa, and you want to go shake and be like, hey, you don't have to do that anymore. That's all been debunked, right? You don't have to be scared of air. You can breathe.
I got to tell you, I'm honestly sad for them. Like your psyche, you have been broken down so severely that you live your life in abject fear of a virus that is not even. It's irrelevant. I don't want to say it's irrelevant. I'll have people jump all over me.
It's barely relevant.
Dying, but it's barely relevant, and usually it's people with pre-existing conditions and blah blah blah. All the things. It's just.
But we've already had the studies showing that masks have like an immeasurably small effect. So
right.
You don't have to be scared of air anymore. It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, newsflash, if you can smell somebody's perfume through your paper mask or your cloth mask, odds are you're getting those little buggy germs. They're coming through.
Right, and you don't have to worry.
Nothing.
Look, the burning gasoline in your car isn't going to kill everybody. Eating steak isn't going to kill everybody. Using a plastic straw is not going to kill anybody. It's okay. We're not the weird ones. Relax. We're fine. Where can they find you outside of the James Show, Elsa Kurt?
Easiest place to find me is Elsa Kurt Official across social media, and elsakurt.com is the website, and love for y'all to come check it out, and I appreciate you, James.
ELSAKURT.com. Thanks again, Elsa.
Correct. Thank you.
All right, coming up next, you're going to hear that montage. Gravian put together the best montage I heard. In fact, I made a montage for today's show yesterday, and I threw it out when I saw Gravian's because it's better. But this whole weird talking point, we'll talk about that next on The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. What's up, weirdos? It's The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Yeah, that's the conclusion here. All the media they just seized on this word suddenly, amazingly. And it's a hell of a coincidence because they wouldn't copy each other. They're not mindless robots. These are people who saw the world around them. They made their own critical thoughts. They came to their own conclusions about this. And it must just mean that Trump and Vance really are weird, that all of these people would have the same conclusion at the same time. That's proof. Not that they're thoughtless, not that they're just hacks repeating whatever their narrative is for political gain. No, it must be that Trump and Vance and you and anyone else who supports them, you're all weird, just all at the same time. Not 2 weeks ago, not 2 months ago, not 2 years ago, now.
He and his running mate are saying, well, it's just plain weird.
These guys are just weird. That's who they are.
As weird and creepy as J.D. Vance.
Super weird idea from J.D. Vance.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, it's quite weird. They're just plain weird.
Just plain weird.
Just plain weird.
That stuff is weird. They come across weird, and then they start being weird. Yeah, they're weird.
Being a really weird.
He's such a weirdo.
Donald Trump and his weirdo running mate, they're weird. deeply and profoundly weird.
They are weird.
These Republicans just being weird, it's just weird. It's really weird.
Republican weirdness goes even deeper.
He said a lot of things that are weird, a weird style that he brings, weird policies. Let's start with the weird thing, because it is a thing.
Just plain weird.
What was weird was talking about Diet Mountain Dew. Who drinks Diet Mountain Dew?
You ever seen the guy laugh? That seems very weird to me, that an adult can go through 6.5 years of being in the public eye. If he has laughed, it's at someone, not with someone. That is weird behavior.
Weird and cultish.
These are weird people on the other side.
He kind of doubled down on his weird ideas.
I think weird is probably generous.
Simply weird. These guys are just plain weird.
Vance as weird?
You know, as the campaign said, weird.
It really is just plain weird.
JD Vance, plain weird.
I mean, I don't know how else you could read it.
Weird. It is kind of weird.
We're not afraid of weird people.
The other side, they're just weird.
Why are you being so weird?
Vance has done something more extreme, more weird.
No matter what kind of weird stuff they keep saying.
Trump and Vance are just weird, in addition to being dangerous to democracy.
It's the weird part that's the most engaging.
Whom he addressed as my beautiful Christians, which was super weird.
Weird tech bro, JD Vance.
He's a weird guy.
JD Vance, uneasy and sort of weird.
Frankly, for lack of a better word, that he's weird.
Sarcastic remarks that aren't even funny, and he kind of shows that he can't really deliver a one-liner.
So, Sam, weird is the word here in terms of initial impressions from Vance to the American public.
Oh, my God, we get it. I even edited that down so it wouldn't be over 2 minutes for you. It's longer than that. Thanks to the good people over at Grabian for putting that together. What a service they've done for all of us, because you've kind of started to notice it, too. But this is where the NPC meme comes from. Do you know what I'm talking about when I say the NPC meme? Do you know what an NPC even is? Sometimes I worry about such things because I don't know if gamer culture has progressed far enough that it would overlap generally with the audience of WBAP, but maybe I'm just immature enough to beat you to it. But NPC stands for non-player character. And for those of you who aren't in video games, the non-player character, with the guy that you're controlling, that when you walk around and you push the joystick wherever he goes, that's yours. That's a player character. It could be you. It could be your little brother next to you. There could be a couple of them on the screen, but everyone else is a non-player character. And so if you go and you talk to someone, like if you're playing Zelda and you go into a store and you try and talk to the shopkeeper, he's only going to say a handful of things that are programmed to him. Or maybe if it's the modern age and you're playing Fortnite and you go to talk to one of the characters on the drop, one of the non-player characters, they can only say a handful of things and they only say what's programmed into them. And the point is, so many of these people that you see out, whether it's in the media or the people on the sidewalk or the people you work with, they don't really think. They're not even really trying to think. Whenever they're presented with this situation, they do what they're programmed. Now, it's understandable because it works. It's worked for them their entire life. You got to be an anchor on NBC just by parroting the narrative of the people who you thought were your betters around you. It can be a very successful track if you're in a rhetorical industry. But these people, make no mistake, this isn't like a cabal. They don't have a secret meeting or an email chain acting on orders from some big puppet masters. These are people who have been trained to do this. In fact, when you go look at the rhetorical training that you get in college, this is what it is. See these other people that are saying things that sound smart, try and talk more like them. And so that's why Kamala Harris can be vice president, even though she hasn't really put together any complex thoughts. You know, she has this speech pattern and this public speaking weirdness about her. She's actually weird when she talks. But anyone who says Trump and or JD Vance are weird, ask yourself, did they ever use that term before they heard it being spread around just in the last week or so on other platforms? Because if not, then you have clear evidence that they're not having an original thought. They're an NPC. This isn't the result of them critically thinking about the issue and coming to their own conclusion. They're adopting the thinking of others. They are adopting their programming. Hey, it sounds like a good argument. Ooh, they're making a good point. I think I'll say that too because it will help the cause. I will be a good person in fighting the Nazis. And then they turn around and they all present it as their own idea with no real consideration on their part. Like Elsa Kurt said in the last segment, oh, really? JD Vance is weird? Did you see the opening ceremony to the Olympics? We're the weird ones. You want to sterilize children. You want dudes running around in dresses. You want to do all kinds of stuff that up until this week has been considered weird, but you're the weird one. But look, when you see someone that's just adopting the thinking of others and presenting it as their own idea, they're outing themselves as a hack. I mean, they may be capable of being a deep thinker, but they're not. They're not doing any deep thinking. They are a follower. They are a partisan hack. It's the same thing you saw over the weekend after the Olympics. Anyone who was saying, well, you bunch of idiots, you need to go brush up on your history. That was based on the ancient Greek mythology of Dionysus. I can guarantee you absolutely none of the people you saw put that on social media over the weekend and yesterday, and because I saw a lot. I'm not supposed to say like absolutely everybody, nobody, but on this one, I actually mean none of them saw that closing scene and thought, oh, yeah, that looks like the Feast of Dionysus. Yeah, the Bacchanalia. Yeah. They may have not seen the Last Supper, but no one saw that and was like, yeah, they're clearly mimicking Dionysus in that one. But everyone who posted that on social media saw someone else make that excuse first. They thought, that's probably true. It fits the narrative. Makes Christians look dumb. Makes Trumpians look dumb. Makes the culturally conservative part of society look like a bunch of mindless idiots. You need to study history. Well, you find out that the presentation was named after the Last Supper. Like the Last Supper was worked into the name. So anyone who said that Dionysus stuff, they didn't actually do the research. None of them did. Because it wasn't based on Dionysus. The people who put it together admitted that it was based on the Last Supper. So that was a lie. Someone else thought it sounded good. And so everyone you see that said, oh, that was based on Dionysus, you need to study, people need to brush up on their Greek history. They all just outed themselves as hacks. Dishonest, thoughtless, automaton hacks. But look, when you think you're fighting Nazis, ridiculing and diminishing the public opinion of Nazis, that's important. That's more important than a little white lie that it absolves your trans allies of criticism. Besides, you don't like Christianity or Christians much anyway, so Christians are out there supporting Nazis, so I guess F them too, huh? Look, a lot of people enjoyed the mocking of Christianity there. Like, yeah, this is our times, our generation. But anyone you see on social media who said it was Dionysus just outed them as a thoughtless hack. Anyone you see in the media, whether they're an anchor or a talk show host or a politician, and they're saying the term weird now, unless there's a record of them saying it before last week, they are now outing themselves as a thoughtless, dishonest hack. A mindless automaton. It's a term I learned from Clerks. You remember Clerks in 1994? The girlfriend says that. Go, you mindless automatons, go commute. But yeah, JD Vance is weird. The Olympics opening was Dionysus. Biden is sharp. You need to wear a mask. Climate change is dangerous. Electric cars are great. Yeah, right. We're the weird ones. You're not hacks at all. We're the weird ones because we want to get married and have kids and not sterilize them. And we're not scared of breathing air, but we're the weird ones. Coming up next, we're going to talk to Natalie Gregg, an expert on healthy marriages, because we are now asking the question, do political differences cause divorces? In some cases, the answer is yes. We'll talk about it next on The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome back to The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Do political differences cause divorces? Do you have any experience in this? You're welcome to share your story in this segment. 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. I can see this going both ways. I have a personal friend, Hiram, if you're listening, thinking about you, bud, who has always been a conservative. He's always listened to talk radio and, voted Republican. But something happened in his wife after Trump got elected. She said over and over and over, I can't believe you voted for that guy. And I talked to him about 2 years ago? He had gotten a divorce. Oh, what happened? Politics. On the other side of the coin, I see great love stories like James Carville and Mary Madeline, two people definitely on opposite sides of the spectrum, get along just fine for 4 or 5 decades at a time. My next guest is an expert on healthy marriages, Natalie Gregg. Welcome to The James Show. How often do you see political differences causing divorce?
Happening a lot of the time.
A lot. So the people who are unequally yoked, they're on opposite sides of the political spectrum, what's the likelihood that it could cause a divorce or even cause significant tension?
So I'd say this is a phenomenon that has really come into play. I've been practicing for 23 years in divorce and family law, but it's really come into play just with the last administration and the Trump versus Biden that is truly the most divisive I've seen it in my entire career.
Yeah, that's so unfortunate for the few times I've actually seen it happen in my sphere. But again, this is anecdotal evidence. It's usually not they're both at each other's throats. There's just one, and the two times I've seen it, it was one person that was so disgusted with the other one. The other person was okay with, Hiram was okay with his wife voting for Democrats, but she was not okay with him voting for Republicans. And is it usually uneven like that?
It can be. It can be both ways. But I think the most important thing is one no equals a no, is what I say in marriage. And so if one person feels either embarrassed or that the other spouse is, just how do you even share my core values if you're, voting for this person that I actually hate? It also comes up a lot in just, social media and Instagram, but a lot of times in Facebook, they're embarrassed. They look at the comments and they say, "Oh God, your husband said this," and they come to me and say, "I can't handle this anymore."
Man, that is exactly for my two friends. The other one, it's a very generic name, Kenny. So I'm not telling on anyone there. That's exactly what they said. Could you not post so much on Facebook, honey? You're embarrassing me in front of my friends. Ooh, that really hit home.
Well, and also, I have a girlfriend, one of my best friends, and she's married to a gentleman, and let's just say she's left and he's right. Let's just say that. And she literally says all the time, they've been married for 15 years, if I knew where he stood on our first date, I would have never gone on the date number 2. So that's a big testament. But they're still happily married. But every so often we have to just kind of mess with her.
See, I find that weird because I'm under the belief, and it's easy for me to say this because me and the wife get along. But if Miss Parker was a communist, I think I still would have married her.
Hi, Miss Parker.
Well, that's true love for you. And
are you married? Natalie, are you married?
I am not married.
Oh, okay. Well, I was going to ask if you agreed with your husband and how that works for you.
Well, I can tell you about my ex-husband. And we were both, I think this is also a function of age. So when you're young, you're kind of young and dumb, and you kind of think everyone starts a certain way. And, we believe we have the same belief system. And then once you start making some money and you start having to pay lots of taxes and you become more wise, you would hopefully grow with each other, right? However, that did not seem to happen in my case. So I wouldn't say it was politics 100%, but I can tell you that I would never even link my name to my ex's in terms of how we represent even our belief system. I live in a very conservative county and I love all of our elected officials. And let's just say he is absolutely the polar opposite of me.
Well, I think we get what you're saying there, and we like it very much, Natalie Gregg. How far is too far? How do you know when you need to cut it off? Like, this is not going to be reconciled. Maybe I don't need therapy and I don't need help. I do need to get a divorce. Do you have any mileposts that people pass that this is the point of no return?
Well, sure. I think it's with any kind of subject matter, but if it's a deal breaker and you've addressed it and you said, "Hey, babe, let's not talk about this at dinner parties. Let's stop advertising. Let's not put up maybe a flag of what you love, like literally a flag on your front door," and they're not respecting you, then they're not respecting your core values and what you're asking for. So that's not gonna be sustainable.
All right, Natalie Gregg, I guess they find you online, nataliegregg.com.
Yes, sir.
There she is. All right, thank you very much. If it's not working out, maybe you can call her and she can take care of that for good for you. Thank you, Natalie Gregg. All right, look, and if you have any experience with this, I love hearing your stories because my in-laws are kind of like that. One of them, my mother-in-law is very, very right-wing, and my father-in-law is just kind of floating out in lefty la-la land, not really trying to nail it down here. But they make it work. They have some fun, dinner conversations sometimes. But, isn't Mary Madeline and James Carville, their little relationship over all these years, so cute? It doesn't have to be a deal breaker, does it? 800-288-9227. I mean, I say that and I've seen it be a deal breaker. So 800-288-9227. How do you deal with the opposite politics from your significant other? It's the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey, welcome to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Is politics a deal breaker in your relationship? You know, most years that's not really that touchy of a subject, but I have a feeling 2024, that might be a little bit different of a story. Are you married to, or do you have a significant other that's of the opposite political spectrum? 800-288-9227. Rich in Dallas, you're next up on the James Show on WBAP. What do you think, Rich?
I can't see how you could be married to somebody with different political values. Those are your core values. It's impossible. If you don't agree on that, you're not going to agree on anything. I mean, especially in 2024. I mean, it's never been this. I've been married for 53 years, and my wife is a marriage counselor, and she'll tell you the same thing.
Your wife's a marriage counselor?
Yep.
So how many people does she talk to where politics is the driving wedge?
She stays away from that.
Okay.
She stays away from religion and politics. You know, she's in private practice. She's been practicing for 30 years. But, no, absolutely. Your core values are your political values, especially nowadays with, well, I'm not gonna say because people will get offended, but it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Well, I mean, I hear you, but I see people with opposite beliefs being married and happily so.
Yeah, happy on the outside.
You think they're just hiding it?
Of course.
Okay. Well, listen.
We don't even. Go ahead.
I was going to say my closest experience is I've only had like 4 girls that I dated longer than 3 months in my entire life. I ended up marrying the last one. But the last girl I dated for any length of time before her, she was definitely the opposite political spectrum. She ended up being like a Bernie Sanders supporter. This was way before Bernie Sanders was a thing. And it kind of did contribute to our breakup because we used to have the conversation like when you first started dating, like, hey, you want to get married and have kids? And you'd say, whoa, slow down. We've only been together for like 3 months. But after like a year, she was seriously saying that, no, I don't ever want to have kids. Like we might get married, but I never want to have kids. And I'd look back at her. I want to have a ton of kids. I want to have 4, 5, 6, maybe. What's your problem? What are we doing here if you don't want to have kids? Are we just best friends with benefits forever? And that, you know, that we almost immediately drifted apart once I realized that she was seriously not interested in kids. But it wasn't the politics that broke us up. It was the kid things. But that's kind of the same. I see what you're saying.
Yeah, those are your core values. I mean, if you don't agree on, you know, religion, birth control, homosexuality, there, I said it. You know, those are basics. And if you can't agree on that, then you won't agree on finances. You won't agree on just taking out the garbage.
Well, listen, if you're worried about the homosexuality, just check her pants and then you have that problem solved. You don't have to worry about it anymore. Thank you very much, Rich. Or I think maybe you need a biology degree these days, but it'll at least give you some evidence in the correct direction. Coming up next, I'm going to talk to an AI expert or an expert on branding about this Kamala Harris video. Elon Musk tweeted it out. Now, I don't think this is technically an ad, like someone bought rotation time. This is going to air on any TV stations. But someone made like a little 2-minute video, and it sounds like Kamala Harris is narrating it, but it's AI, and it's basically an anti-Kamala Harris diatribe. And immediately after posting this, there was a response from Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, says he's putting together legislation to make stuff like this illegal. Elon Musk said he checked with renowned trademark expert Professor Deesnuts and said parody's legal. So that was hilarious. But this is the ad, and we'll talk about whether or not this should be ethical or allowed.
I, Kamala Harris, am your Democrat candidate for president because Joe Biden finally exposed his senility at the debate. Thanks, Joe. I was selected because I am the ultimate diversity hire. I'm both a woman and a person of color. So if you criticize anything I say, you're both sexist and racist. I may not know the first thing about running the country, but remember, that's a good thing if you're a deep state puppet. I had 4 years under the tutelage of the ultimate deep state puppet, a wonderful mentor, Joe Biden. Joe taught me rule number 1, carefully hide your total incompetence. I take insignificant things and I discuss them as if they're significant. And I believe that exploring the significance...
Anyway, it goes on for like another minute, but should that be illegal? Now, the argument for it is that parody has always been legal. Mad Magazine's been able to draw caricatures of all kinds of politicians and famous people. And as long as it's understood to not be the real person, I don't see what the problem is. I think it should be legal. What say you? 800-288-9227. Now, you shouldn't be able to use it for fraud or make people think that that's really what she said. But I think everyone understood that was parody. 800-288-9227. This is the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome back to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Welcome back to the big show. Well, I don't know if you've been keeping up with the Secret Service hearings. I have not been watching all of them, but I have been going back and trying to catch some of the highlights and the reviews. And really, the best Cliff Notes we have, the best tour guide you have through this mess is the guy that comes on before me, Dan Bongino. He was in the Secret Service for 12 years. And so even if you weren't previously a fan of Dan Bongino, for whatever reason, that's okay. We're not going to take offense here. He's doing some amazing shows now just because he has all kinds of insight and experience. And this story has so many flaws in it, and he points them out so quickly and right off the bat that like he was going to the hearings that they were having today, and he was correcting people. And at some point, like someone in the Republican Party needs to call Dan Bongino and say, "Listen, what questions should we be asking? What are we getting wrong here?" Because it's been amazing. So my next guest is going to try and fill in some of those gaps as well. Brian Boyd, he's a 30-plus year professional intelligence analyst, and he's worked in all kinds of things, counterterrorism, law enforcement. Brian Boyd on the James Show. Welcome, first of all.
Thank you.
All right. Have you been keeping up with these Secret Service hearings? Because Dan Bongino, it's just says he's embarrassed by how the Secret Service has performed, not only on the day that Trump got shot, but in the days since.
Yeah, I tend to be a good fan of Dan Bongino, but my career is similar to his. I spent years in the early days of when the DEA was created. I was an intelligence analyst, helped start their Joint Intelligence Center, moved on to become chief of intelligence at another Treasury agency. Then I was a Green Beret for 30 years at the same time. I did that because those agencies allowed me to stay in that business. So that's why I have such a strange career. But having been in Washington, D.C. and other cities, I've seen a lot of this things happen firsthand, and I've worked inside the government. I've been on defense on the outside. So I'll bring it down to you in sort of 4 easy bites. Now, I watched the entire hearings because I'm looking to see if the answers are there. First of all, the acting Secret Service director that I watched, Ronald Rowe, I was very impressed with him. Totally different than the one who resigned. And he was trying emotionally and professionally to come up with answers, but he was blunt as he could be. It was an absolute failure. He admitted the failure, but I'll break it down to 4 areas. The first failure was in planning and preparation. That means when they got on the site, the advanced team, who they haven't identified who was in charge of that, made some tactical errors. They didn't do the things that you would do as a layman. You'd like to take out a chart, mark the buildings A, B, C, D, and give everybody a radio and have them call in. That seems to be kind of basic, but that's a security 101 class. The other one was command and control. They didn't really rehearse this very well. You could see that in the after action when the Secret Service guys piled on Trump. They didn't think about an exit strategy. They didn't know which way to go. There wasn't enough room to get off the ramp. You put a short agent in front of a tall guy. These are all tactical problems. And the third thing is they had a failure of coordinating and overseeing the local law enforcement people. He said several times in his interview, we assumed that the state and local were there. We assume that. We assume that. You know what assume means. We both know that acronym. I won't have to say it on your radio station. But they assumed that people were in position. And the fourth one was an intelligence failure. Now, my background is intelligence. And over the years, intelligence failures have caused major shakeups and reorganizations in the government. And the intelligence was on lack of real-time information. When that police officer climbed up on the edge of the roof and peered over the edge, and Crooks aimed his weapon at him, and the guy dropped down, there was a 30-second time lapse between that and when the man began firing. If it had been you or I, would you have fired your weapon in the air so everybody would hear a gunshot and duck and run? He could have done that, but I'm sure most people wouldn't think of that because you're not allowed to do that as a police officer. But by getting on the radio, the time delay between his communication, going to a dispatch, et cetera, and going to a command tent, and then getting on the air, and he said, the Secret Service acting director, Rowe, said that they had no heads up. They didn't get communication. So that is a major, major issue. Now, in combat, that gets people killed, no pun intended.
Right.
And in this case, that intelligence failure is a major. Those are the 4 main points that came out of this hearing today.
Yeah, Dan Bongino says there's no such thing as the Secret Service deferring to the local authorities like, we thought they were going to cover them, or we thought they had that building, or we thought that was their post. Right. That's the beauty of having Dan Bongino. I don't know that, but he's like, there's no such thing. Whenever the Secret Service sets up a security detail, they are the ones that cover all the holes. They are the ones that man all the posts, and anything that the locals do is just lagniappe. It's just extra gravy on top of that.
Yeah, and I think when I said this early on, the day after the shooting, when I was first asked to be on several TV stations within hours after the incident, my opinion is that they've become complacent. If you think about it, Trump rallies have been love fest the last 9 years. Every time you go to a Trump rally, people pick up the trash, they buy T-shirts and hats and baseball things, and nobody ever has any issues. It's all fun stuff. It's all apple pie stuff. And I think they became complacent. I don't think they are up to speed in their training like they're supposed to be, like they should be. I mean, it's very strict on their training, but they seem to have lost sight of what happened. And this is where the bad guy did the same thing. He studied how far Oswald was from Kennedy. Well, we all know assassination attempts tend to be lone wolves. They're either done a short distance with a rifle or up close with a pistol, much like they did with Ronald Reagan. And you would think, and when they talk about the perimeter, this is why the previous Secret Service director was forced into resigning. How can you have a nearby range of a building top not covered? And they're talking about 1,000 meters for the snipers. Well, you don't want to have a counter sniper team reacting. You want to prevent the incident. And that's the thing that I found the most abhorrent behavior here. There was no excuse not to have that building covered. I don't care how they blame it. And blaming the state and locals is wrong because they're under the total control of the Secret Service. So it comes back to the site agent, whoever was in charge of that. They've not given up their names. And this is where Ron Johnson, the senator from Wisconsin, was upset because he wouldn't give them the names of firings. But in the defense of the Secret Service director, he says until he gets all the facts, he's not going to try and prosecute or go after or relieve the agent for duty. And if I can say one more thing,
please.
You and I both know in a police shooting, they automatically take the cop off the street, put him on administrative leave because it's an officer-involved shooting. We all know that from the media.
Yes.
Why the Secret Service does not have the same policy, I think that needs to be immediately addressed. Anybody involved that caused this incident should have been immediately put on administrative leave, no matter how shortcomings they are, until they sort out who's at fault. And that's going to have to happen because it's been, 19 days and no action's been taken.
Yeah, no one's been fired. It's insane. And so, look, my takeaway from this, Brian, is either the Secret Service is passively in on it, like they wanted it to happen, they knew it was going to happen, and they stepped aside and allowed this guy in alley to take a shot, which is, it sounds like it's really far-fetched, but only slightly more far-fetched than the Secret Service detail on Trump. It's such an absolute clown college that this could have happened at any number of events, and we're only lucky that this is the first time it's happened.
Yeah, I chalk it up to complacency. When people want to know the motive of the shooter, this is my strict professional opinion. It does not matter the motive of the shooter because they had such a huge hole in their security, basic failure of security and basic communications of a radio system back and forth. Anybody, a kid, an old man could have climbed up on that air conditioning unit with a slingshot, a BB gun, anything, and could have caused a disturbance or a mishap or anything.
He could have killed him with a crossbow from that close.
That's right. It wasn't a professional hit. It had been a professional
No,
hit.
it was some untrained 20-year-old goober, and if he can somehow master his way through an $11 trillion defense budget, a lot of heads need to roll. Like, that is completely unacceptable. I wish we had more time, but if you want to find more, you can go to boydintelligence.com. What are you doing these days? I got a nice rundown of your past with the Green Berets and encountering terrorism and whatnot, but what do you do these days, Brian?
Well, I get asked to do a lot of radio and TV, but my other world is I'm a professional magician, and I got into that because when the DEA hired me, I had to find a way to get these Middle Eastern people that I was training to quit smoking. So I made cigarettes disappear, and it launched a part-time career when I got out. And one of the interesting facts of life is I give lots of talks on the history of our intelligence agencies, and a lot of people don't know this, but in the early 50s, right after the CIA was formed, magicians taught the CIA guys because they had no experience, but they had a book teaching them how to do trickery and deception. True story, and there's actually a book on it. A manual.
All right, Brian Boyd, next time you're on, we'll make you do a card trick or something. There he is, Brian Boyd. If you have any comments on that, 800-288-9227. Coming up next, I'm going to play you a Cybertruck owner who's not real happy with his purchase. That's coming up in 5 minutes on The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3.